So we all know that the budget was reached and they passed a roughly $17 billion budget over in Chicago yesterday. All right, let me say that again. Roughly $17 billion budget over in Chicago. One of the problems was the initial budget, because it was voted down almost 4 times. The initial budget called for a $300 million increase in property taxes all across the board. Now, one of the things that Brandon Johnson was trying to do when he first got into office was he tried to take the Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden pitch and say, you know what? It's the rich. It's the rich people's fault. Even though they pay the majority of the taxes, even though they're the ones that invest in everything that happens in Chicago, it's the rich people's fault. He villainized rich people and he said that they need to pay their fair share. One thing that he wasn't counting on is the fact that people that have resources are much more easily able to move. They're much more easily able to relocate. They're much more easily able to, find a better space for them to live if the business environment, or you start to villainize them and say that it's not conducive for their lifestyle. Yeah, they can. Absolutely. But neither here nor there. He tried to pass a $300 million property tax increase onto the people. So you would ask yourself the question and you would say, well, why would he try to do that? Why would he try to raise property taxes? Because Chicago in fiscal year 2024, $250 million in a hole. Fiscal year upcoming 2025 is facing a $942 million deficit. $942 million budget deficit. And that largely is because A, they have not controlled their spending. B, they have not poured into the community that will allow for them to be able to generate more tax revenue from supporting businesses. And C, they decided that they wanted to support the migrant crisis. Now, nothing could be more in your face considering what happened in this previous election and that he was touting just a few months ago a new $100 million contract for a staffing company in order to continue to support the migrant crisis, even though they know that the voters largely across the entire nation is against it. And he was facing every single headwind. You got Chicago red, you got Chicago flips red. He goes viral every single day, almost to the point to where they have largely considered him across multiple media outlets, Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, along with all of the aldermen, the worst mayor in any major city in the United States of America. Now, I think that could be accurate. There is nobody bringing more negative visibility to their city than Chicago's Brandon Johnson, a former social studies teacher. And the chaos continues. Fox News recently did a breakdown after this budget hearing and seeing everybody going off on Chicago. Every single city council meeting, this is what they came up with.
The Chicago City Council narrowly approving Mayor Brandon Johnson's 2025 budget, including a controversial $40 million short-term loan for a city already swimming in debt, all part of a chaotic meeting where residents slammed the mayor.
You caused all this money to go to illegal immigrants. Anything that you all pass is not genuine.
You have not protected the people of Chicago from invasion.
He wants to pour a $40 million line of credit and put the city in even more debt. It's your fault that because you gave half the money to illegals.
Imagine you saying that you have a balanced budget while taking out a $40 million. Oh, imagine, okay, let's bring it back down to something that's a little bit more manageable, right? Imagine you and your household and combined, let's use the average household income, that's everybody inside of the house across the United States of America. And the average household income is somewhere between $67,000 and $72,000 a year. I think that that's going a little bit lower. We're going to get into the layoffs a little later on in the show. Imagine y'all combined, you make $42,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? She brings in an additional $28,000 a year. I think my mental math is correct. That'll give you about 70. And then y'all pay y'all taxes. And then after you doing your bills and you writing out all of your budget and you going through and you say, okay, so we got to pay this for the mortgage and we got to pay this for electric. We got to pay the property taxes. So that's going to go into escrow. Yeah. All right, babe. We balanced the budget. And she said, okay, honey, what we looking at? Well, guess what? We got to go take some payday loans out. High interest rate payday loans. The creditors are lowering our credit scores, so we probably going to have to take it out at a higher interest rate. We're going to refinance our cars. The car payment is going to be a little bit lower. However, the term is going to be longer. And she going to say, well, honey, listen, I'm not in charge of the budget because you the man and I'll let you do your thing. However, I got some concerns. And you say, well, what's going on, baby? And she said, well, listen, if we look at this budget and we wind up paying more than triple what the car is worth because we refinance the loan just to have a lower payment, that doesn't actually help us. That put us in a worse position. But the budget is balanced. Now, she may roll with that. All right? She may see it through if she can see some light at the end of the tunnel. Because, you sometimes you got to take a step backwards in order to take 2 steps forward. She may see that. But then you throw a caveat on there, right? And you say, all right, but listen. I know that the budget is a little tight, but we're going to get through it. She said, okay, baby, I'm with you. I believe in your vision. We're going to get to it. We're going to make it. I believe in your vision. We all in. I'm going to give you my paycheck. You give me your paycheck. We 100 in, no 50, 100. But then you say, but listen, my homeboy is coming to stay over though. And we gonna have to take it used to be the bedroom for the kid. We gonna make them get on bunk beds. They're gonna share a bedroom. And we gonna have my homeboy that just got out of prison. He gonna come and stay with us. And we gonna spend some extra money to make it homey for him. So we got to go buy some new furniture. We got to make sure that, the bills is going to be a little bit higher because, we got more mouths to feed. We going to pay for them to be able to eat with us at the dinner table every day. We going to get them some new clothes. We got to make sure that they protected. And then the wife going to say, hold on, wait. What do you mean? Your homeboy is getting out of prison. Oh no, listen, it's cool. I mean, they just gonna sleep in the side bed. But wait a minute, you telling me we got to put our kids in the bunk beds? I mean, I was with you, but I didn't know that I was gonna have to give you my paycheck so we can make sure that they got furniture too. That's the equivalent of what they dealing with over in Chicago when it comes to people that are illegally coming into this country and then taking advantage of your tax dollars while at the same time you have to raise property taxes or your cost of living is going to go up while your quality of life goes down because the services is going to be dedicated to them, not be used for you. Is that a good analogy? I want to make sure that I break this down from a C student's perspective. Because if I just say, oh, well, you know what? They funded the migrant crisis and, they want to do a property tax increase and the millages and all of that. It don't really hit the same. But if I explain it to you a little bit differently and say, well, hold on, man is coming home from prison. He was your homeboy back in high school. And he said, I ain't got nowhere to go, so I'm going to come to your house. And he going to be standing around cooking food naked. And he going to be taking up all of the resources. He ain't going to get no job. And he going to be eating at the dinner table. And the kids is going to be on the bunk beds. And you got to pay for furniture and food and clothes for him like he a child. And no benefit that comes along with it. He might bust down your wife if you leave him home too long. It hit a little bit different, right? This is the equivalent of what we are dealing with in the United States of America if you have designated yourself as a sanctuary city. You have basically signed up for Melvin with no job to come and cook eggs. Some of y'all are familiar with Baby Boy. Some of y'all ain't from that generation, but you signed up for Melvin to turn around and say, you want some eggs? That's what Chicago is. Chicago is Baby Boy, And Melvin, except for Melvin, don't have no job, is cooking eggs in y'all city. And Mayor Brandon Johnson and all of y'all aldermen and J.B. Pritzker is over there basically sanctioning this. You want some eggs? Chicago, you want some eggs? And so now you can see why the people that are familiar and informed are saying, hey, listen, why are we still voting blue? Why are we not getting Melvin on up out of here? You do anything to my mama, cuz it's on everything. Melvin grabbed you by the neck. Jody. He told you if y'all was on lockdown, he'd make you fix it. If you was on lockdown, I'd make you fix it. Got the church helping them to buy y'all properties. Chicago steal it. They resell it. They sell it to migrants. The church is making sure that they buy y'all properties. They taking over your schools. Remove shot spotter. No police presence. Planned Parenthood pulled up to the Democratic National Convention and put the city of Chicago, even in worse debt. And even while the Democratic National Convention was going on, they put all of the police presence there, and the neighborhoods was left in chaos. And you see more shootings and things going wrong in Chicago. And at the same time, they saying that they're going to fleece all of the business owners, including sports teams. That's going to basically drive revenue even further into the hole. This is Chicago. This is why you have to be informed as a voter so you can make a better decision so Melvin ain't cooking eggs in your crib. You go to work every day. You come the whole time you at work. You know what I'm saying? Your wife working a different shift than yours. She's supposed to be sleeping. She wake up. She smell. What is that? I'm not used to cooking in the daytime. She go downstairs and she see Melvin. Melvin got his schlong. And he cooking eggs. At first, she get offended. What is that? He keep eating all of your kids' fruit snacks. All of the fruit snacks is gone. Ain't no leftovers ever. Now you sitting there telling us, oh man, I don't like what's going on in the economy. It costs us more for food, gas, and groceries. No, it's because Melvin is staying there. That's the equivalent of a migrant crisis. Let's continue.
Chicago reporter William Kelly joins me now. William, you were inside that budget vote. How embarrassing was this for Mayor Brandon Johnson, even with the budget ultimately passing?
Even after it passed, nobody applauded, Todd.
I see you, Messi.
As a lifelong Chicagoan, I love Chicago with all my heart. I'm not a Chicago basher, and I love those people. It brings tears to my eyes, Todd, who came to Chicago City Hall week after week. It took 4 times for this budget to finally pass. $17 billion.
Happy birthday,
These
Rosita.
real Chicagoans, they made their voices heard. They made it clear they don't trust Brandon Johnson, Mayor Johnson, with 50 cents. Okay, they know he's just going to spend that money on migrants and violent teenagers. Brandon Johnson says it himself, Todd.
You've been coming on this show for years.
D-Fam, I know you want my attention. I'm not going to give it to you today because I got a schedule to keep. D, I know you want my attention. I'm not going to give it to you today. Usually I address the Dusties, but I got a meeting that I got to prepare for. I can't get distracted today. I got to stay on point. I know y'all like bad little kids. You want me to pull you out and bring you to the front of the congregation and say, oh, man, you Dusty. I can't believe you. I'm not going to get distracted today. It's not going to be the Millionaire Distraction Show today. We're going to stay on point.
Your passion for the Windy City is definitely noted during each appearance. You mentioned the migrant. Brandon Johnson, under his tutelage, under his leadership, Chicago has spent $527 million taxpayer dollars on migrants. So my question for you, Will.
He ain't even been in office but a hot minute. He ain't even been in office but a hot minute. $527.5 million. And that's not truly really capturing the true cost of housing a migrant crisis. We're not talking about police presence. We're not talking about school resources. We're not talking about sanitation. We're not talking about transportation. We're not talking about infrastructure costs. The true costs when you go to work every day, right? Let me break this down. And I want y'all to look at everything from a business perspective, all right? This is why it's called the Millionaire Morning Show. We got to bring it back to the money. Because we can look at it and say, okay, well, that's what they spent on paper. That's not the true cost of a migrant crisis. $527.5 million in less than a year, since May 2000, less than a year and a half, less than 2 years, May 2023, they've spent almost $600 million on a migrant crisis. When you go to work every day, okay? When you go to work every day and you say, hey, man, okay, let me rephrase it. I'll bring it back for you so you'll actually understand it. So D-Fam can stop feeling some type of way and I'm not paying them attention, all right? When you chilling with a chick and y'all start to get into that conversation of, well, what do you do for a living? And she trying to figure out how much you make. She looking up your LinkedIn while you go to the bathroom and all of that, right? And you say, I make whatever, $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year, all right? That's not the true cost of compensation from your job, right? The true cost of an employee, and this is why y'all really need to start educating yourselves and becoming more informed, even from a business perspective, is not just based off of whatever it is that you make per hour or what your salary is. Payroll taxes cost, healthcare coverage costs, life insurance costs, you being able to be housed as an employee costs, relocation services costs, dental, eyes, children, all of that stuff. The true employee compensation package is much greater. If you ask your job, if you ask HR, hey, what is my total compensation for my, because that's not how much you make. It's not how much you take home. The total compensation is an all-encompassing, inclusive number that also take into consideration every single benefit that you use or don't use, tuition reimbursement, all of that stuff, travel costs, you going here, you going there. The cost of being able to have you as an employee is much, much higher than whatever your salary is or whatever it is that you're taking home, okay? And it's the same thing when it comes to the migrant crisis. It's not just the amount of money that they allocated out of the budget to say, this is what we spent on migrants. When you have to call police services out, when you got to call a firefighter, when you got to jail them and lock them up, when you have to send them before a judge, when you have to update infrastructure, when you have to start accommodating or hiring more employees in order to process these people, to run the shelters, to make costs or the interest payments that come along with buying property in order to have these people there. When you have to put them in schools and then they have to add more teachers or, they have to accommodate for more classroom space. All of the costs that's heating and cooling, everything. The total cost of a migrant crisis is probably more than double whatever the number is that they're telling you that they spent on it. And so when y'all looking at y'all $942 million budget deficit that y'all was facing in 2025 and they looking to raise prices and the cost of living on y'all, you are the ones that's the taxpayers that's paying for it. You the sucker. You the fool. Then this is why the name of this show is called Failed Leadership. You failed. I'm not even talking about Brandon Johnson yet. You failed as Chicagoans to vote in and inform yourself the right people, because I will tell you, aside from Chicago flips red, aside from Chicago red, aside from the people that's out in the suburbs that was all red, that core inner city that keep Illinois blue, y'all the problem, because the leadership is a reflection of the voters. The leadership is a reflection of the people. Don't blame them, blame you. Don't blame them, blame you. Because every single person in Chicago that sit there and you can't get a good police response time, but you never showed up to the polls or informed yourself on who you should be voting for, and you deserve that. I want your money, but you get no representation. I never knew that, you can pay for something and don't get any services. And politics is one of the only places that you can do that. Politics is the only place where you can pay for a service and you don't even complain about whether or not it's good or not. You go into a restaurant, you go and spend your money, you're going to want something for free. You're going to eat the food and you're going to want it for free and you're going to want an apology or you're going to post a bad review. But you won't even show up to the mother effing polls to vote in the right leadership to ensure that the people is actually working for you. They told you to get the freak out and you paying their salary. How crazy is that? You pay for every last one of these aldermen's salary, and you can't even get no representation. They don't even want to hear nothing that you talk about. They ain't listening to you. Politics is the only place where you can complain about a service, or you don't actually have to have good service because you've basically given them a blank check to kick you in your butt and pay for whatever it is that they want to pay for without any explanation whatsoever. Ain't that crazy? Failed leadership start with the people. You know how we look at these schools and we say, oh man, it's so messed up in there? It's the parents' fault. It's the parents' fault first. It's not the teacher. It's not the institution. It's not the supervisors. It's not the security. It's not the police officers. It's your fault. It starts at home. Everything that you see in these failed cities, it starts in the household. Let's get to it, y'all. We got to get there.
William, would Mayor Johnson have had an easier time passing a budget if, I don't know, he didn't spend so much money for illegal migrants at the expense of tax-paying city residents?
Well, that was almost to the penny the amount that Mayor Johnson wanted to raise property taxes on the real people of Chicago. Thankfully, I had the opportunity to call it out as a migrant tax, which motivated people to come to Chicago City Hall and literally shout at the mayor, which I guess is what was necessary. But yet, Mayor Johnson still got the votes from his friends and allies in the Chicago City Council. The vice mayor, here's an example of where we're at in Chicago right now, okay, Todd? The vice mayor, a guy named Alderman Burnett, convicted of bank robbery, okay, of armed robbery, spent time in jail. He's a Chicago City Alderman. He's getting paid, in addition to his aldermanic salary, for almost $500,000, okay, to be vice mayor, which essentially has absolutely no duties or responsibilities other than waiting to possibly become mayor if something were to happen to Mayor Johnson. So in Chicago, if you really, really, really want to rip off the people of Chicago, don't rob a bank, become an alderman.
Woo! Spit. Talk Will J. Kelly in the building. This is the same person that was approaching the mayor and approaching the mayor's office, and they was trying to kick him out. Talk about it. Talk about it. Listen, you won't have to go out and rob a bank. Y'all playing the game backwards. All of the criminals, y'all out here taking PPP loans, running schemes and scams, trying to finesse people out of a bag. You ain't got to do that. Just become a politician. Who gonna stop you? Who gonna stop you? Become a politician. Ain't nobody tripping about what's happening in Chicago. You don't have to go out and rob a bank. As a matter of fact, you don't even have to worry about putting if you're a felon before you run in Chicago. You can rob a bank, literally, and then become the vice mayor of Chicago. Straight from prison into the politician seat.
That's wild. That is a wild story you just told us. The vote got so heated, the mayor basically cleared out the room, said he didn't want the citizens there. This is their city. They get an opportunity to weigh in on this, and the mayor said, get out. Has Chicago finally reached the tipping point that so many cities and towns, and quite frankly, the United States of America reached in November with the vote, that they're finally going to vote out the Mayor Johnsons, the Mayor Lightfoots, and bring some sanity back to Chicago?
Well, it's an old joke, Todd. Is Chicago ready for reform? And the fact is that it might just be, because we see this money going to migrants. I did some math myself, okay? Mayor Johnson has 100+ staffers. They're all making six figures. Many of them have become notorious as a result of, at William J. Kelly on X, videos where I literally have to chase them down the hallways of City Hall to talk to them. One of them in particular, Kennedy Barkley, is famous for saying F the pigs. Okay, this is what I guess her number one qualification for becoming a Mayor Johnson staffer. Okay, 100+ staffers, wow. Six figures apiece, adds up to millions upon millions of dollars out of the pockets of real Chicagoans. Yeah, I think it might be Chicagoans might be ready for some real change, some real reform, Todd.
Yeah, and
I don't think, listen, you don't need hardly any of those staffers. Hundreds of staffers for Chicago. Jesus Christ. It's amazing. It's amazing. What? Welcome to America, where you can come up and do whatever you want to do when you want to do it, and you can use taxpayer dollars as a result of it. All right.